You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
So, good evening. We will call to order the regularly scheduled meeting for the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency. We're governed by Connecticut State Statute 22A to 42, as well as town regulations. This is the Inland Wetland and Watercourse Agency, meaning that all business must be pertinent to those regulations. We have a quorum, and so all the commissioners present will be seated. Quick reminder, when you are going to, first, please keep your sound on mute unless you are specifically speaking. And additionally, when you speak, each and every time you speak, please state your name clearly for the record. So with that being said, we're going to call and we will start with the approval of minutes from September 10th, 2020, and it's our regular meeting minutes. Have commissioners had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. Sorry, before we do minutes, can we just do a roll call of who's present at the meeting?
Sure. You want me to call them out and they'll say here?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so I'll begin with a roll call. Commissioner Sullivan.
Here.
Commissioner Begemon.
Here.
Commissioner Grinolf.
Here.
Commissioner Kraus.
Here.
And I am Commissioner Boda, and I am here. Is there another commissioner present that I have not called? Okay. That being said, so we have our roll call. And now we're ready to move to minutes. If commissioners have had an opportunity to review the minutes, are there any adjustments that need to be made? If there are no adjustments to be made to the minutes, I would like someone to please make a motion to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Grinolf shall make a motion. We approve the minutes of the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Grinolf, for making the motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Sullivan, I second it.
Commissioner Sullivan has seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? I'll take a roll call vote for approval of the minutes. Commissioner Sullivan.
Aye.
Commissioner Begemon.
Aye.
Commissioner Grinolf.
Aye.
Commissioner Kraus.
Aye.
And Commissioner Boda, aye. Thank you. So we'll move on to applications for receipt. The first application for this evening, Inland Wetland 20.10.01, 65 Dorchester Lane, construction of a single family house. Jamie, would you like to introduce us to this, or shall we bring the applicant forward first?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. We can have the applicant give a brief overview and then I can respond to any outstanding questions. Well, actually, I will mention that I did send a couple of comments to the applicant regarding the slope and the planning and zoning requirements, and providing some additional details regarding drainage. I think that's it. So
okay. As in we need additional details for their drainage plan?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, they're proposing footing drain that will discharge to daylight, and I requested that they provide some sort of detail on the protection for where that pipe will discharge. I also requested information on how the roof leaders, or how the roof drainage will be handled, to which I received a response that they will add roof leader locations to the plan and show outlet protection detail. Oh yes, there was one other outstanding question. I had seen in the notes that there was, in the construction sequence, a note regarding buffer plantings, but I didn't see any buffer plantings proposed. So I asked whether or not there were any, and I will let the applicant speak to that because it sounds a little open-ended, and I think that might be a discussion with the commission. And then in regards to the grades, if they're modifying the grades, they may need to either propose a retaining wall or make other adjustments for the zoning requirements.
Okay, so this is Commissioner Boda with the applicant for 65 Dorchester Lane. Please talk to us about your application. And please make sure you introduce yourself first. Is there anyone here for?
There is. I think they're on mute, so I'm going to see if I can help them on.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay, Roger Nemmergut. I'm the project engineer for this application. Also,
Can you say your name one more time, please?
Nemmergut, Roger Nemmergut from Nemmergut Consulting.
Thank you.
Our office is in North. Also, here is Jay Galvin. He's the owner applicant. And this application relates to property at 65 Dorchester Lane. It's the last lot in a subdivision of about 14 lots on Dorchester Lane, which is a cul-de-sac road. Subdivision was approved in 1969. And this is, as I said,
Mr. Naviga, I'm just going to interrupt you for one moment. This is Commissioner Boda. Jamie, would you be able to pull that up onto the screen for us?
Yes.
So that we can follow along. And Mr. Namagat, if you would just give Jamie a second to get us in. And if you would also just orient the commission in terms of what main street are we off of? Where in town are we, please?
Okay.
This is Jay Galvin. I could probably give you a quick idea of where the location is. It's Dorchester Lane is a road off of Northford Road, which is basically Mill Plain Road. Does that give a pretty accurate, I'm sure you're familiar with, right?
This is Commissioner Boda. I think Mill Plain Road is helpful. It looks like it is to the west of Mill Plain Road. Is that correct? Are you? Is this this neighborhood that is to the southwest? Is that like the Coachman Drive?
Yes, it's close to Coachman. Like if you're coming from the center of town, heading towards like the movie theater, you take a left onto Mill Plain Road and go about halfway up that road, and then to the left is Dorchester.
It is east of Coachman from distance.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you. You can. You would start from the beginning. That would be helpful. Now that we have the map up.
Sure. So, as I said, this is a 1.25 acre lot. It's located on the east side of Dorchester Lane. It's the last lot on the road. It's at the cul-de-sac. You can see the curve of the cul-de-sac on the left side of the sheet. The application is for the owner applicant to construct a 3-bedroom single-family house on this lot, which he plans to live in once it's built. You could see off the property, but to the north is a wetland area. It's shaded in gray. And to the right, or the east of the lot, is a pond area. That pond has a very small fringe wetland on the west side of the pond. The wetlands are shown. They were field flagged by Davison Environmental and the flags are field located by surveyor William Byrne. When you look at the 100-foot upland review zone on this parcel, it's about 80% of this lot is within the upland review area. So when we looked at it, focus was to try to keep our activities as far away from the wetland as possible, and the pond, recognizing it's not possible to stay out of the upland review area. So we selected the house site. By the way, this property slopes from south to north, which would be from the bottom of the drawing towards the top of the drawing. This is north straight up on this plan. And the house, that location that's been selected, and also the footprint is based on architectural plans that the owner has had drawn up. It's essentially on the higher corner of the lot. The topography is such that the southwest corner of the lot has the highest grades. Everything else slopes either to the north towards the wetland or to the east towards the pond. We were able to keep the septic system at least 100 feet away outside of the upland review area. And that design has been reviewed and approved by the health district. One of our alternatives early on was kind of to switch the house and septic areas, which had the house up near where the septic is now, and then the septic between the house and the road. We were required to do groundwater monitoring about a year ago, two springs ago actually, and those showed that groundwater table was too high for septic. So we reversed, and essentially, based on the testing, this is the only place that the septic could be installed and meet code conformance. So it's the land slopes, as I said, from the south to the north. The house has been designed with, so the north end of the house where the garage is, it's garage under, as you can see where the driveway enters on the west side of the house off the cul-de-sac. And what that allowed us to do is recognize a lower grade at the north end of the house. So with the step down in the house with the walkout basement, we minimize the amount of fill that was needed around the north end of the house, although there is still some fill required. Primarily, this results in filling on the site. There's very little cut. You can probably tell by the proposed contouring that there is fill essentially on the east side of the house and the northeast side of the house. You can also see that the northeast corner of the house is where the wetland is closest to the activity. So one of the review comments that we got related to the sloping that we're using for the banking for the fill, and it's been designed on this plan as a 2 horizontal, 1 vertical. That's been found to be something that can be stabilized with grass. But Jamie informed me that planning and zoning has a requirement that it has to be a 3 horizontal, 1 vertical. So we're left with 2 choices on that. Either go to a 3-on-1. And by the way, these fill slopes are somewhere in the neighborhood of about 4 to 5 feet. I think the highest one is 5.5. Would be to extend the fill toe away from the top of slope, but that's would just create more disturbance, and it would get the fill closer to the wetland. So if we're to have the 3-on-1 slope, I think our only choice is probably put a short timber retaining wall in, which would allow us to hold the total slope that's on the plan, possibly move it a little further away from the wetland. And that's probably how we're going to address that. We could do some things where it's closest to that point wetland on the northeast corner, probably round out that grading so it's not so much of a 90 there and bring it back closer to the house. So we've tried our best to put the house where it's going to do the least disturbance, keep the septic at least 100 feet away. Relating to the comments on the planting, we have spoken to, while it's not on the plan at this time, we have spoken to Davidson Environmental. They've agreed to come on board and provide a planting plan, probably around the north and eastern portion of the work site. So we could have that for the next meeting. The balance of the comments related to how we discharge the roof leaders, and we'll provide that on the plan next. Foundation drain outlet protection for the flow. Some other comments that I think we can are able to address at the next meeting or before the next meeting. But as I said, we've tried to minimize the disturbance as much as possible. Oh, it's public water too, so we don't have a well service. Water supply is shown on the plan. So underground utilities, those I believe we've been able to keep out of upland review area. So that's the plan. If anybody has any questions or if the owner wants to add anything to the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Nergman. Mr. Calvin, did you want to add anything that is particular to inland wetlands watercourses?
Jay Govan speaking here. I just want to thank Roger for speaking on my behalf to describe the plan here. I don't have any technical information to add. I read through the email that Jamie sent over earlier today or yesterday, and there were some questions about the whether or not we need the planting plan proposal. And it sounds like, based on what Rogers was just saying, that we should go ahead and do a planting plan. I just wanted to confirm that.
This is Commissioner Bode. I think that would be in your best interest, certainly.
Okay. Thank you.
So this application is not actionable tonight, but it is, we have a minute if the other commissioners have questions for Mr. Nergman. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing that. I wrote it down and now I can't say it. Nemergot?
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. If the commission has any additional questions about drainage, elevation, sediment erosion control during construction or after.
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent, not to prevent any commissioners from asking questions, but I did want to point out two other things. One, the applicant is already aware the proposed house location requires a variance for the front setback. So if they were not to get the variance, then a modification of the approval or new approval would be required from inland wetlands, just as a kind of heads up. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is I did also have a comment for the applicant regarding their notes regarding the erosion controls stated that a wood chip berm could be used in lieu of the silt fence. I told him I had a little bit of concern with that and would possibly make a recommendation that that not be an approved substitute after a conversation I had with the engineering department. The engineering department said that if they were to use a wood chip berm, they'd want to see some more information on how the wood chips would be held in place. So, and the applicant has responded to that comment. I think the comment was, we can strike the wood chip berm detail from the plans if you wish. We have found them in the past to be very effective and economical and not prone to washout from surface sheet flow. So I just wanted to mention that in case any of the commissioners had any questions or comments regarding that detail.
Mr. Nemergot.
Hey, Roger, never got just two comments. One is I should have mentioned that in trying to minimize the disturbance near the wetlands, we did pull the house closer to the road than the building setbacks allows. Like Jamie said, we moved it 20 feet inside the front building line, which will require a variance. So we will apply for that as the next sequence we get through this application, but we made the effort to take on the variance in order to try to minimize the disturbance near the wetland. And the second thing I'll say is on the wood chip berm, we will strike that from the detail. Actually, what we show now for protection is a composite of staked hay bale backed up by silt fence. So we don't have to worry about the wood chip berm washing out. We've got something pretty substantial in there. It is both a silt fence with hay bales backed up against, and on this side, I think it's justified.
Commissioner Boda, was someone else trying to ask a question? So this is Commissioner Boda. A question that I have is, I can't see the orientation anymore, but I believe it is the northeast corner. You don't have to zoom out, it's okay. But essentially that 90 degree, yes. Is that the limit of disturbance down there, right on the whatever I don't know what wetland flag that is.
Wetland flag 17.
Yeah, what am I looking at here? Are those, where's the limit of disturbance? I see it, yeah. So what is the distance between the limit of disturbance and wetland flag 17?
I'll answer that, Roger Nemergut. It's only a matter of a few feet, probably 2 or 3 feet. If you see the two things I'll mention there, if you see the contours, they kind of make a right angle. The dash lines are existing conditions, and the solid lines are proposed contouring. So they make kind of a 90-degree angle. And if you could picture that 90 kind of rounded out a little bit and pulled closer to the house, we could increase that distance, not substantially, but between that and the retaining wall, we can improve that condition. It's yet to be seen how much. We'll have to, go back to the drawing board and try to move that a little further back, get back.
I think that would be nice. Any other questions from the commission? Jamie, is this application complete? Other than the items that you have asked for, but what they submitted as far as their fee and everything?
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent, it is. And when the application was submitted, the applicant was wondering whether or not the commission would want to do a site walk. And they also mentioned, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, please, that the site would be available for commissioners to take a look at individually if they would like to do that instead.
That was my next question is, should we site walk this? Or let me rephrase, what date would be a good date to site walk this? Perhaps that is a better way to put it. Our next meeting. So Jamie, we have a meeting scheduled for the 22nd, but this would not be on the agenda. Is that correct? Because that's a reg revision. So the next meeting for this would be November 12th.
The next regular meeting would be November 12th.
And at that point in November, I imagine it would, after work would not be, it would not be light enough. So we're looking at a Saturday walk. Is that fair to say?
Depending on what time everyone gets out of work, but yeah, I would say probably a Saturday would work out better. Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent.
So that would be the 7th. So Commissioner Sullivan, Begeman, Granage, Kraus, thoughts on November 7th?
Do we have to do it that close to the meeting? This is Commissioner Kraus, or could we do it sooner while it's still light out at night?
I have no, that would be fine. Do you want to do it on a Thursday?
Sure. I mean, see what other people think. I was just putting in one.
You spoke up, so I'm going with what you said. Commissioner Begeman, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I can do late afternoon Thursday before it gets dark.
Commissioner Granage, does a Thursday after work after work?
5
Okay.
o'clock, 5:30, something like that, probably. Early enough so that it doesn't affect the dinner hour.
Yeah. Is 5 o'clock feasible? I think we'll get, it's starting, the light is definitely changing.
I have no problem at 5 o'clock.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, 5 o'clock should be fine. When do the clocks move back?
I think it's usually, it's around, is it Halloween?
Yeah.
Looks like it's
So-
November 1st.
So 5 o'clock, it's going to be dark.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I just looked up, I don't know if you guys have specified a Thursday yet, but October 29th, sunset is at 5:50.
So what if we did the 15th?
Next week.
Yeah.
Next week looks good.
3 Thursdays in a row. Why not?
What's the weather next Thursday?
New England.
We don't want to be out there in the pouring rain.
You cannot trust the weather weekend.
I think next Thursday, because it's lighter and it's warmer and we don't have to wait until that close meeting. We can get it out of the way.
Jamie, is it okay for us to have a site walk posted this few days of notice?
Jamie Frederick, yes, it is.
All right, so it looks like we are aiming for 5 p.m. Thursday, October 15th, 65 Dorchester Lane.
Commissioner Kraus, sounds good to me.
That sounds fine. And if we find out that there's a big storm or something, some heavy rain predicted, we can always make a change.
We could also put on our mucklucks. It'll be a good way to see what's happening with the water on the site.
That's true. It's a good idea.
Should always do these in the, no, I'm just kidding. All right. Anything else on this application before we move on?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. Do you want anyone from the applicant team to be there? And if so, are they available?
Roger Nemmergut, we'll definitely be. I'll be there, and the owner, if he may.
Yeah, Jay Godwin here. I'll be there. Yeah.
If you would stake, please, the corners of the house. Actually, you do the corners of the. Is that deck like a second floor deck?
It is, and the house has already been staked in the field. So we're good to
Okay.
go.
And then also just where that limit of disturbance in the northeastern side of the portion. You know what parts we're looking for. I can see it.
Yes.
And the wetlands are flagged, correct?
Jay Godwin here. Yeah,
The
so
wetlands are flagged.
wetlands are flagged. The tornado that we had a couple weeks ago took a few trees down in that northern wetland area that ripped some of the flags down with it. But the majority of the flags are still there. A bit faded because I flagged them maybe 3 years ago.
This is Commissioner Boda. If it's, it would be really beneficial to ensure that wetland flag 17 is visible.
Okay. I'll check that one out. I think everything in the area from like wetland flag 10, 11, 12, 17, 16, like that grouping is still intact. There's some overgrowth, so the flags that are closer to the pond aren't as easily visible with all the vegetation. And then the latest storm kind of demolished the area of like wetland flag, like I'm seeing like 21, 20, some of like closer to the upper left of that diagram there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that will, and is, well, we wouldn't walk to those flags. Yes, that's a different, that's a separate property. Is that right?
Right.
I'm looking at this little corner here on the screen. Who's, do we know whose parcel is that? Oh, Zaffin? Yeah, I don't know that we would, you know, I mean, we're not going to go on somebody else's property. Unless that person is here and gives us express approval. Okay. All right, so we're ready to move on? I'm going to take silence as a yes. All right, thank you both.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the 15th. Next is Inland Wetland 20.10.02, 37 Applewood Road, in-ground pool house residential addition, and associated drainage, grading, and landscaping. Jamie, would you like to set this up for us?
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. This application was received yesterday. However, I did start to correspond with the applicant team about a week ago. Well, actually quite some time ago. So I've not had a chance to fully review their application materials. However, they did submit all of the requested information that immediately seems applicable anyways, including drainage report and site plan, planting plan, alternatives. And I did go out last Friday to take some photos. I think one thing that might be kind of outstanding for the commission to address this evening would be the fact that there is a tree that fell into the wetland area that I believe the owner would like to remove. And I did not charge a fee for activity in a wetland because two-part. One, I'm not sure whether or not the commission would approve that. And two, I think in the past for temporary impacts, the commission hasn't charged that fee. So I think we can hand it over to the applicant to make their presentation, and that can be something the commission maybe discuss briefly afterwards. And I do have all the plans available, so if you want me to show those, I can start with probably the civil plan, and if the applicant wants any other plans, then I can move over to those.
That would be helpful if you would pull the plan up before we start this, Commissioner Boda. And then if the applicant, please remember to first introduce yourself, and second, to orient the commission to where in town we are. All right, the applicant has the floor. Is someone speaking? Matt Pop, is that you speaking? Okay, Mr. Pop, your sound is no good. Nothing yet. Try one more time. It sounds like you're about 100,000 miles away. You have some headphones that would work. Like, oh, good. Did he? Nope, he's still there.
I think he's on mute.
He's now on mute.
Good evening.
Ah, there you are.
Hey,
All right. Are you getting an echo?
So put you have two devices on.
Yep, I'm going to shut one off.
So mute one of them.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Matthew Popp, landscape architect, professional wetland scientist from Environmental Land Solutions, Norwalk, Connecticut. This application is located at 37 Applewood Road. That's located on the south side of I-95 to the east of East Main Street, sort of in the residential neighborhood to the east of that, East Main. It's located on the west side of Applewood Road, just north of Sanders Drive. It's a 1.1 acre site. The site slopes from the high point from the east corner of the site down towards the west. It's gently sloping. The majority of the site is maintained with turf grass and ornamental plantings. There were a few large trees on the site surrounding the house. Some of those trees actually fell down during a tornado that you had about a month ago. The wetland is located near the northern corner of the site. What you see on the site plan that you see there, that's not the entire site. It actually goes up further to the north a little bit. The wetland is not located at the low point of the site, which is kind of unusual. The wetland was flagged by Scott Stevens in August of this year. It contains the wooded wetland, contains a small ponded area to the east and to the west and to the north. It's wooded to the south and to the east. The lawn goes up that wetland line there. So again, the majority of the site is maintained as lawn. What we're proposing is a swimming pool right there, and a residential addition to the southwest of the house. That's just shown as an envelope. The addition will fit within that building envelope. And we're proposing a pool house on the northeast side of the house. The site plans were prepared by Redness and Mead out of Stanford. They're engineers and surveyors. Our firm prepared the wetland mitigation plan. Again, in addition to those three things, the pool house, and the addition, we would like to remove one of the trees that fell within the wetland area. So it's right there. The Redness and Mead also prepared a drainage plan that you can see there between the swimming pool and the wetland. There's underground detention galleries there. The pool is approximately 50 feet or so from the wetland line edge. The addition is about 87 feet at its closest point. The stormwater galleries are about 30 feet at its closest point to the wetland. There's also an erosion control plan prepared by Redness and Mead. I prepared the wetland mitigation plan. Jamie, if you could put that one up, that would be helpful. And zoom in. The wetland mitigation plan includes planting the lawn area surrounding the wetland with native trees and shrubs. We have one large shade tree, 4 understory trees, and 16 native shrubs. There's a boulder barrier kind of to the south of the wetland buffer that will demarcate the edge of lawn from the wetland buffer. The pool fence will also demarcate the lawn area from the wetland buffer. Let's see. And I think we did submit a few alternatives. The other alternatives were kind of rotating the pool, generally in the same location, 90 degrees. That pushed the pool very close to the wetland, although it didn't take up as much of the rear yard as the homeowners wished. There it is. It's a different orientation. You can see the pool gets very close to the wetland, or the disturbance gets close. So we decided with rotating or placing the pool parallel with the house, keeping it away from the wetland. Again, all of the activities are proposed within areas maintained with lawn and ornamental plantings. Along the northern property line, there is some trees along that property line that will be removed, and those will probably be replanted with screening plants. So I think that's it shortly and quick. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
This is Commissioner Boda. I want to clarify. This is an in-ground pool. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. Yes.
And so there's no draining of that pool.
Correct. We have a cartridge type filter, and the pool equipment is tucked kind of behind the pool house, outside of that 100-foot wetland upland review area. So yeah, so there's no backwashing of the pool.
And are you? Is that a stockpile close to the approximate location of the proposed addition?
Yes. So,
and how is that stockpile? Can you just talk about the erosion control for the?
There's just silt fence on the low side of that. It's gently sloping. There is a tree in that vicinity, and that tree is no longer there. So if you're looking on the plan, it's still, I think it still shows the tree, but that tree was impacted by the windstorm. So again, that's the stockpile area will be wrapped with a siltation fence.
How big is the proposed? Or are you anticipating the stockpile is?
I don't anticipate it to be that large, because we are going to be using some of the fill for the pool on the west side of the pool to kind of fill that area in. So I don't envision that to be large at all. So I think the size that you see on the plan area-wise is pretty close. If I had to take a guess how tall it would be, maybe 6 or 8 feet high. It's a temporary stockpile area.
Still Commissioner Boda, and I don't know the orientation, so I'm just going to say to the kind of up and to the left of that stockpile where the tree is no longer.
Yes.
What is that rectangle with the small squares in it? Or diamonds?
You're looking at the erosion control plan.
I'm looking at what Jamie has up on the screen right now.
Yes.
So you go to the left, all the way to the left before it says Sandra Drive. A little bit further is that rectangle with the diamond shapes in it. What is that?
There's a garden area there. It's an existing garden.
Okay.
And that's wrapped with a fence.
Okay, thank you. Does the commission have additional questions about the plan, sediment erosion control, construction that Mr. Pop could answer now? Shall we add this, and I'm anticipating potentially the third application. So we could potentially add this to our site walk. And it would, we based on the location, I would say Dorchester, then Applewood. And if we needed to see, East Main, then that would make sense to just do it in that order.
Commissioner Broda, I think I might have misidentified the garden area. I think there's also an anti-tracking pad, the darker area, which you were referring to.
That would make sense.
Yes, but but right next to it in the rectangular area is also a garden.
I can see the garden noted on the map.
Yes. Yep.
So, commissioners, does that make sense to add this to our site walk? I imagine this would be a relatively quick one following the one on Dorchester Lane. Commissioner Grinalsh?
Yeah, that's fine. I think it should be bright enough. That's halfway home from Dorchester for me, so we figure somewhere around 5:30.
Yeah. Commissioner Kraus?
That works for me.
Okay. Begawan?
Yep, that's fine.
Good. Sullivan?
Good.
All right. So let's add that to the site walk agenda. I don't know how long the Dorchester will take. I don't know, Jamie, if you want to kind of estimate, I'm thinking maybe a half an hour. Maybe this one is 15 or 20 minutes. We'll be running out of light at that point.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, I think that's probably a pretty good estimate of time. Probably still enough light at that time, I would imagine. Might just want to ask again with the applicant that time works for them.
Mr. Pop, can someone be there?
Yeah, I'm sure the owners will be there, and Bill Buckley, who's also working on the project. He is the father of Patty, and he's familiar with the site plans, and he could also help out.
Could you have staked in the field? I'm assuming those wetland flags that are nearest. I can't see the numbers on the screen.
Yeah, they're still up. Yep.
Good. And then could you have some stakes put in where that silt fence would go?
Sure.
Maybe just a start and end point on that straight run.
Yep. Okay. We could do that.
Anything else from the commission?
Yeah.
Mr. Commissioner Grinalsh?
Yeah, that's fine. It would be helpful if Jamie could send us, email us a copy of this plan since we haven't received it yet. I think it just came in yesterday or so, the application.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, that's correct. All of the materials are in the Dropbox, and I will probably have our new inland wetland assistant, Abby, send out packets tomorrow, or if not Monday, and we'll give Abby a welcome at the end of the meeting. And I do have some photos of the site, but given that you want to do a site walk, I don't know if you guys want to take the time to look at them now. They're also available in the Dropbox if you want to take a look at them.
Just mail the plan would be fine for me.
Would it make sense to bring the plans to the site walk? And then we can hand them off. And if any commissioner does not make the site walk, then they can be mailed.
I like that idea. Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent.
That would work.
Good. That way we have them in hand as well. If there's nothing else, thank you, Mr. Pop, for your time.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you as well. Okay, next item for receipt, Inland Wetland 20.10.03, 287 East Main Street, Riverwalk. This is a modification and repair of the approved spillways and additional activities that may exceed standard maintenance. Jamie, would you like to set this up for us?
Sure. Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So a while back, I was contacted that Riverwalk, not too long ago, has received full maintenance of the property. Before, it was kind of a transition between the developer and the association. And they are at a point where they're looking to get a good grasp on how to maintain their drainage. And there's a couple of repairs to primarily the outflows of basins 7 and 8 that they want to do that kind of felt like may have exceeded the general standard maintenance that would be considered part of the project. So I requested that they submit an application for review by the commission. And as part of that, they also want to do some removal of vegetation that would be in a wetland area to help ensure that, I'm going to get them wrong, Basin 8, I think, discharges into the drainage inlet that goes through the cemetery property and ultimately into Branford River. So the basins are, if you're looking at the GIS map here, Route 1 is to the north, and this is the long entrance into the property. And the basin there's one on either side of the entrance. So there's one before you go over the wetland crossing on the eastern side, and the outflow of that basin is right here. And as you can see, it's right into the wetland, which is why I wasn't comfortable doing it administratively. And then the other basin is over here by Unit 60, and it outflows into the wetland. And then this purple line right here is where the culvert is approximately, that then drains into the Branford River. So now that you guys kind of have an idea of where on the site we're talking about, I can pull up the proposed details and hand it over to the applicant. Just one other thing to clarify as far as the vegetation removal, it would just be making sure that the drainage from this basin makes it to this culvert, but also there's a stand of Japanese knotweed here that I believe they would like to eradicate. So again, I'll let the applicant go over that a little more.
Thank you. Is there an applicant here for 287 East Main?
Yes.
If you would introduce yourself for the commission, please.
My name is Rob Sonicson. I'm a registered professional engineer. I work with Waldo and Associates at 89 State Street in Guilford. Jamie did a good introduction. We were asked by the new committee, the new drainage committee at Riverwalk, to take a look at their system. There's a series of 8 water quality basins that were put in when the project was originally approved and constructed. The approval was in 2004. We did a report for them back in February, which was basically a description of the basins and made recommendations for sort of a long-term maintenance plan, mostly vegetative, removal of dead vegetation, things like that to keep the basins functioning in tip-top shape. They're catch basins, and there's some centric stormwater structures which we inspected, and they were in good shape. What we found were 2 areas of concern that led to our recommendation that these be the first 2 items that would be addressed by the association. And they were in basins 7 and 8, which happened to be the 2 northernmost basins. Basin 7 is the one that's on the west side of the entrance driveway, and Basin 8 is on the east side of the entrance driveway. I know it's kind of backward, but I'm going to start with Basin 8 because it logically it's more upstream than Basin 7. Basin 8 is collects the stormwater from the entire entrance driveway. The first 2 catch basins drain to Boston Post Road, but the entire remainder of the long site driveway that courses down from Route 1, the drainage is collected in a series of catch basins, and it discharges at the northern end of basin number 8. Basin number 8 holds water. It's got some standing water in it now. and it overflows at the south end. The original plan that Mylone and McBroom drew called for installation of an erosion control mat over the spillway. And when I went and did the inspection of it, there wasn't any evidence of any erosion control mat any longer. With erosion control mats, they do have a finite life. They're designed primarily to establish vegetation and then to deteriorate. But in this case, what ended up happening was that the erosion control mat deteriorated and the water just flowed across the top of the earth embankment, and it resulted in quite a bit of erosion. And I said, you really should stabilize this area. And we initially suggested replacing the erosion control mat with another erosion control mat. But the more that I looked at it, all the other basins, with the exception of Basin 7 and Basin 8, have a riprap outflow, which all of which have stayed in great condition. The only two basins that the outfall have deteriorated were the ones that the erosion control mat was used in. And so we're recommending in our proposal, in our plan, is to replace the erosion control mat with sort of a standard riprap outfall, which will be more stable and long lasting. So at the top of the design sheet, there's a typical cross section of what the spillway section is going to look like. There will be some work done it's about 15 feet across, maybe a little bit narrower than that, but we're going to reform the area that's eroded, place geotextile, and then a 1 foot thickness of modified riprap. Modified riprap is the smallest riprap that the DOT has as a specification. The size of the rocks are usually between 4 and 6 inches in diameter. Some of them can be as large as 10, but this is there's a very limited watershed area, and there's not much outfall, so you don't need any larger rock than that. There's also a large speckled alder that pioneered in the outflow channel, which has kind of displaced some of the existing riprap immediately downstream of the spillway. And we're recommending that alder be removed and that the channel be reestablished down to the wetland watercourse that flows under the culverts to the west. So that's the highlight on Basin 8. Basin 7 has two outfalls that flow into it from the driveway area. It has some standing water. It was really supposed to be relatively dry, but the outfall has become clogged with vegetation, and it is really difficult to even find it now. We're recommending that in both cases, the spillway area be cleared of vegetation, riprap be placed to the limits that were shown and approved on the original plan, and that any vegetation that's clogging the outflow channel be removed, and that any disturbed area be planted with either a conservation mix, if we can do it during the growing season, which the seeding season really ends on October 31st. So it doesn't seem like it'll be able to be done by then. What you would use after that would be winter rye, but that would have to be rehabilitated next spring. Access to the Basin 8, I'll hop back, will be off of the driveway. There won't have to be any disturbance in that area. other than taking a couple of pieces of fence down. The access from to Basin 7 would be from the cemetery side, and of course, approval by St. Agnes Cemetery would have to be received, but we don't expect that they would object to doing this this work. And as Jamie said, we're going to eradicate a pretty hefty stand of Japanese knotweed if we can. One thing that I'd like to bring up is that the fee that was assessed for the application was $960, and we're respectfully asking for that fee to be reduced by $500. The $500 is for remediation and or enhancement activities proposed within wetlands that are not required for Section 7.9 or as a result of a violation. There's not a violation. It's not remedial because what we're really doing is repairing and putting back to the way that the original design called for these spillways to be configured. And so we would appreciate if the commission would consider reducing the application fee. The association's paying for this work. They're doing it voluntarily. And it's one of those things that they feel that it's going to be truly beneficial both to the basins, but also it's going to be preventing the erosion that's been taking place, which can potentially cause some culvert clogging and different things like that. So I see it as being a real beneficial project, and hopefully the commission will consider that reduction for us. This is a part of a sort of a long-range plan. We'll be talking to you going forward. Most of the rest of the work, if not all of the rest of the work that's going to be coming up, will be strictly removal of dead vegetation and things like that within the basins to continue to keep the volume that they have. The volume is set to perform water quality improvements. And we don't want to take the vegetation out of the basins because they're great in nutrient removal. And they do a very good job already, but we want to keep the volume as it is. So we'll be coming back and maybe next year with 2 or 3 basins that they'll be removing the vegetation that's grown over the past several years in those basins. I submitted a copy of the operation and maintenance plan that we did for Riverwalk to Jamie, and I think that's pretty much it for me on the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Sonicson. Does the commission have additional questions now for Mr. Sonicson? So there was a couple of questions that were, so he had asked about the fee. So we should discuss that, although we could, I don't know, Jamie, if you have a particular perspective on that.
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. I do think, so I guess there's kind of 2 things I'd like to point out about the fee. One is that it's kind of hard to estimate the area of disturbance fully because they are looking to do a little bit of vegetation removal to help ensure that the flows the discharge from the basin occurs. That being said, I do think it's reasonable and within past practice for the commission to consider the fee reduction, particularly since essentially what they're trying to do is, in my opinion, play catch up with maintenance that should have happened, but may not have happened during the transition of ownership. So this is kind of to set them to a place where they should be. And then also, as was mentioned, there is a new stormwater system operation and maintenance plan. The one that was provided to the homeowner association was all of 4 pages, so it's not very detailed. So I requested that they submit the new one as part of this application so the commission could consider and review that, so that we're not necessarily looking at every time they want to maintain something. But also, I think these are the 2 instances where perhaps the footprint is either being exceeded or modified, in the sense that they're looking at a different outfall. I believe on Basin 8, the outfall is being extended, which I did go out to the site, and it does look like it needs some additional protection. So I think, like they presented, this is an improvement that they're looking to make. And in the past, the commission has granted fee reductions when the project is beneficial to the environment. And that is per section 19 of the regs. And if you guys want, I can look up that language.
Mr. Sonicson, when you were looking at this or their request, did you go back to the original approved application for the maintenance plan?
Jamie gave me a copy of it. We didn't get a copy. I asked the homeowners association to give me everything that they had. They gave me the plans, but they didn't give me the operation and maintenance plan. And I'm not certain that they got it from the developer.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, I got it from Jamie, and it really doesn't say anything. It talks mostly about, cleaning the catch basins out, sort of, the standards,
Mm-hmm.
the more centrics, which I did, and they're clean as a whistle. There's no buildup of sediment in them, which is great. They don't use a lot of sand on the roads, and that would be the only thing that would build up in them. And they said, mow the embankments of the basins, and that was it. They didn't say anything about maintaining the interior of the basins. They said you should inspect them annually, but it really didn't have any other what I would call useful guidance in the plan that was submitted at the time of approval.
Okay, so thank you. Is there a feeling about reducing the fee that the commission, so Commissioner Sullivan, Begeman, Bernal, Strauss, thoughts about fee reduction?
It's Commissioner Begeman with just a question for the commissioners. When it sounds a bit like this was a lack of maintenance, proper maintenance that has led to a problem, and then there's a limited, there's an area of disturbance that leads to a fee of $960. So I understand that there'll be work that'll improve things and get some invasives out. But I don't know in terms of the past precedents, if it's cases like this where deferred maintenance has led to a problem, that then fixing that problem is a good thing, versus a project where the fee is reduced because something good is going to happen, but it wasn't because there was neglect for 5 years. It seems like if the homeowners association needs to pay $960 because of deferred maintenance, then it would be legitimate. And I'm just asking about that.
I think this is Commissioner Boda. I think I hear your thought process, and the additional piece of information is that it was the initial builder that was meant to be, doing this work, and within the past, I'm not sure when the transition occurred, but that it sounds like the homeowners association has only recently taken control of the maintenance of the common features. Is that accurate or no?
That's true. I was contacted in 2019. They'd just taken over the maintenance. There was a kind of protracted period of time. It's a standard process that happens with these kind of condominiums. The project was really built out over a long period of time, and it was the developer's responsibility. I've only had discussions with the association. They indicated that sometimes they had difficulty getting the developer to address issues not specific to the stormwater, but there were other things also. So it was just the developer was kind of getting out of town, and he stopped. They mowed the grass, they did things like that, but they just really didn't do anything with these basins. And now the association gets involved, and what do you know? They have to invest a significant amount of money in making repairs that they really had no control over or any knowledge of until I went out and took a look at it.
Commissioner Granolch, I would make a motion that we reduce approve the reduction of the fee to $500. I think because we're dealing with the homeowners association, they are not the people that were responsible for any delay in maintenance.
This is Commissioner Sullivan. Who had oversight?
Wait, Commissioner Sullivan. So Commissioner Granolch has made a motion, and so at this point, someone would typically second it, or the motion would die. So do we have, and I would just, Commissioner Granolch, ask for clarification, or if Jamie could remind us. I'm looking at, I think it was 19 that we have, just to include in the motion the regulation that allows us to do that. We can just hold on one second.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I might recommend the motion be withdrawn. We have this conversation and then a new motion be made.
Okay, Commissioner Granolch, is that all right? Will you?
Yes.
Or are you okay with withdrawing? And then let's.
So Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. The section 19.7 allows the commission to grant a reduction of the fee, and there's two reasons. One, the activity applied for would clearly result in a substantial public benefit to the environment or to the public health and safety, and that the applicant would be reasonably deterred from initiating the activity solely or primarily as a result of the amount of the application fee. Or B, the amount of the application fee is clearly excessive in relation to the cost to the town for reviewing and processing the application. The agency shall state upon its record the basis for all actions under the subdivision. And I would also like to clarify that they're requesting a fee reduction of $500, so that the fee would then be $460 if the $500 is granted.
Okay, so I'm going to make a statement to Commissioner Granolch, and then I'm going to ask Commissioner Sullivan to say what he was going to say. So, Commissioner Granolch, if you are still interested in making that motion, if you could look at 19.7 and decide if you are aiming at A or B. And then you may wish to remake your motion based on the rationale of using one of those items. So if you would take a look at that for a minute. And while you do that, I'm going to call on Commissioner Sullivan to say what he was going to say.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Boda. Commissioner Sullivan here. Who had oversight over the developer during the period before the homeowners association took over?
Amy Frederick and the wetland agent. So there was definitely oversight in the sense of the permit, in the wetland permit, and then also other approvals. Unfortunately, we don't always have the ability to follow up with every site throughout the entire duration of its permit. So essentially, once it was built and was working effectively, it probably stopped getting inspected by town staff.
Well, and this is Commissioner Boda. I think the other thing is typically the oversight would look something like within the permit application that is either approved or the conditions that are put upon it is that there are reports about sediment and erosion control, about basins that have happened at 6 months, at 1 year, and then 1 year, for a year, for 5 years. And if the report is really geared to that the basin is being cleaned out and that there's no significant erosion events, then it would just continue to move as okay, right? And so the control and the oversight is of the applicant and the builder. The oversight is the town, the commission, based upon the reports that come in. So unless there's an additional complaint that there may be a violation, the town staff typically don't go and look for problems. We have enough we know about.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, just to add to that, this permit has expired. Otherwise, I may have suggested that it would be a permit modification, because I think the activity is fairly consistent with what the original approval was for. And I do think, kind of, as far as the consideration of a fee reduction, the fact that the responsibility of maintenance shifted hands and that the homeowner association was newly formed, relatively speaking, and certainly their oversight over the basins was a new task for them. And I think they've shown a lot of effort and care in having hired somebody to come out and take a look at what should be done, what needs to be done. And I think to kind of encourage that and continued proactive care of the system are things that the commission may want to consider and whether or not to grant the fee reduction. Certainly, if they were to come back and have the same issue over again, that could possibly be a different issue. But I think those are kind of the considerations.
So, this is Commissioner Boda. So for you, Jamie, is $460 an appropriate amount for reviewing and processing the application for the town?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I think if the commission was satisfied with that amount, that it would be okay.
That would cover your time.
I think so.
Okay. Are there other questions or thoughts about the fee reduction?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I think the only comment I would have is, again, going back to the fact that they are looking to remove that Japanese knotweed stand. So essentially their fees broken down into 3 groups. One is the total area disturbance. There's a fee associated with that. Another one is the state mandatory fee, which is $60. And then the third one is remediation and or enhancement, which is what I said they should use for the direct wetland impacts. And so they estimated 800 square feet of disturbance, and that's primarily associated with the repair of the spillways. Obviously, a portion of that work is not in the wetland area, so I do think it is a reasonable estimate. But I also, and I think one of the things that the commission should consider as part of the application review is, particularly in reference to that Japanese knotweed stand, and the ability to maintain flow from the basin into the stormwater system, the long-term maintenance that would be involved in that, so that they're not coming back necessarily each time, or if they do need to come back each time or every 5 years, that is decided upon, so that way they know what the course of action is.
Okay. And that would be going forward. That wouldn't be part of the discussion.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so Commissioner Granolsh, are you ready? Have you picked a rationale? It could be both. It could be one. It could be the other.
Commissioner Granolch, I do not have available to me the regulations. However, I believe that Jamie mentioned was it item A, Jamie? Could you read that to me again?
I'm sorry?
For under that section.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. A reads, the activity applied for would clearly result in a substantial public benefit to the environment or to the public health and safety, and that the applicant would be reasonably deterred from initiating the activity solely or primarily as a result of the amount of the application fee.
That sounds good. That's, I'd make the motion that we approve reduction of the fee to $465. Is that the right number?
460.
60.
Whatever that number is, okay. And based upon the section you just read of the application of our regulation.
Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Sullivan, I second that motion.
Okay, Commissioner Granolsh has made a motion and Commissioner Sullivan has seconded. Commissioner Granolsh, if you would accept a friendly amendment, I would just clarify that the fee reduction is for $460, that the regulation is 19.7A. And I would also add 19.7B, that the fee is in excess of relation to the cost of the town for reviewing and processing the application.
That's fine. I add that as an amendment to my motion.
Okay. Jamie, do you have the motion down okay?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. That is actually Abby that would be doing that.
Oh, Abby. Commissioner Boda, Abby, do you have a motion down or that you're okay, or shall we clarify anything?
Abby York, Inland Wetland Associate. I have it down okay. I'm all set. Thank you.
All right, so the motion has been made, it's been seconded, an amendment, and the amendment accepted. So I'm going to take a roll call vote.
Sorry, Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. Can we just make sure that Commissioner Sullivan also is okay with the amendment? Because he seconded.
Oh, sure. Commissioner
Sullivan, I'm okay with it.
Beautiful. Okay, so roll call. Commissioner Sullivan.
Aye.
Commissioner Begeman.
Aye.
Commissioner Grange,
Aye.
Commissioner Kraus.
Aye.
Have any other commissioners arrived that I cannot see? Going once. Okay, Commissioner Boda, aye. And the motion carries. So that takes care of the fee. I'm wondering if, Mr. Sonicson, if this site, if these two spots being off the road are accessible enough that if the commission wanted to, that it could go drive down Riverwalk or through the cemetery and see those basins and maybe see it in better daylight.
Jamie and I went out and inspected both of them, and they're very overgrown, and it's a little bit difficult to see them. I had to kind of make a path to the outlets, particularly the one in the cemetery at Basin 7. The outlet to Basin 7 is quite a distance. It's probably 30 feet, I would say, from the inlet, and there's the Japanese knotweed, and it's very obscured. It's a little bit tough to get a good visual handle on it. If the commission wanted to, I could make arrangements to be out there and sort of push the brush aside so that they could see it. But do you agree, Jamie? We had a tough time getting out there and seeing anything when we went to do the inspection.
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. It is a little bit hard to see the areas. I think if the commission wanted to see them, it might be beneficial to have it scheduled with staff and or the applicant to ensure that you're seeing the right areas. Alternatively, I believe I took some photos while I was out there, and or I could go back out and take some photos for the commissioners to see. It's up to the commission. So.
And the reason, part of the reason, pragmatic part of the reason is that if we have those two other, the distance between the two basins and the time I think that it would take to get to those, I think that we would be in the dark if we started on Dorchester Lane at 5 and then we went to Applewood. I think that's not, I don't think that would make for a good plan. So is it so obscured that really the pictures are going to tell us essentially the same as a site walk?
I think so. I could also go out and take some additional photos. I took some when I did my original report, which you could see the outlet. Why don't I take some more photos? I might be able to do it tomorrow and send them to Jamie, and maybe she could upload them into your Dropbox, and you could take a look at them and see if you can get a feeling for what the situation is. These are the photos in my report with, and the 7 and 8 are the last 4. So you're going in the right direction, Jamie. These are other basins that are scattered throughout the site. Most of them are dry detention basins. You can see the vegetation that's growing in them. As an example, most of it was dead at the time I took them. So, okay, there's 7. the spillway is sort of in you can see the cemetery in the background, and the spillway is sort of right in that area where you just had your cursor. It's just covered with vegetation. The only way you can see it is from the other side, from the cemetery. But this picture was taken during the winter when everything was dormant, and now everything is growing. That's a picture of the outlet, and the stalks that are in the front. Those are classic Japanese knotweed stalks. All of the leaves and the vegetation are gone, but you can see how it's just, and the riprap is sort of the outlet area for Basin 7, but it's obscured right now. The outlet's obscured. We were able to find it, but it took quite a bit of work. And then the next two are of Basin 8. That's the basin itself. I said, there's Phragmites growing around the outside. It was dormant in this picture. There is the standing water in the basin. That's sort of the upper end of the basin. And the next picture is the outlet area. You could see it when the vegetation was dormant. That's on the right-hand side of the picture. That's that alder that's growing right in the channel. That's the riprap channel. It's sort of, and then the area of erosion is immediately up gradient from the riprap channel. It's just like an eroded gully. It's less than a foot wide, but it's eroded through the embankment, and that's the area where the spillway would be replaced. So now the only difference between the conditions now and then, once again, that was all during the winter when the vegetation was all dead. Now it's all, foxgrape and everything is growing all over it. So. I wouldn't want to go and cut it because,
Sure, that's wise enough. So, Jamie, just your perspective, do the pictures tell enough of the story? I'm just, again, thinking from a time perspective. I don't know that we would have time on either end unless we started at Riverwalk at like 4:15, and I don't know if folks can do that, because to go from Riverwalk to Dorchester, we figure 35 minutes for the site walk with a hustle.
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. I think the pictures, they do show the areas, and as it is the dormant winter season, you can see it a lot better than you can right now. It is very overgrown. I suppose if the commission wanted to, you could put it on the sidewalk agenda tentatively with, the note, if there's enough daylight, continue on here. And I could show you the areas to prevent, making the applicant come out, in case we don't end up meeting there, or we can send out some pictures. And if you guys want to take a look at it, we can always schedule a site walk outside of the meeting too.
Commissioner Grenall, I don't see any great benefit in doing a site walk. They're going to do a repair in this area. It's going to be so thick. I probably wouldn't walk down in there myself anyway, so count me out on that site walk.
Okay, well, I think we can, I don't think there's a harm in putting it as the end of, and as a tentative, and Mr. Sonicson, if you know that if it's dark when we're wrapping up at Applewood, then we would not head over to East Main. Is that fair enough?
That's fine. I'll probably go out, and maybe Jamie could give me a call if you've decided after your second walk that you're not going to make it over there.
Mhm.
Sit in the gazebo.
Yeah, there's a Dunks nearby and get some coffee or hot chocolate. Very
Right.
nice. Okay, if there's nothing else, we're ready to move on. Yes.
For me.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
good night.
Good night.
All right. So, moving on, applications for review, Inland Wetland 20.09.01, 99 Todd's Hill Road, Lot 7. And so, Jamie, if you would set the stage for us, this is pending agent review.
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. So Lot 7, the commission received at the last meeting and continued to this evening. Pending agent review is item B, and that's the following 3 applications. So this is one that the commission wanted to look at a little bit more, in particular in regards to the stormwater management. And when the commission reviewed the subdivision, the roof stormwater management was not shown. And I believe the concerns were the proximity to the wetland and whether or not a grass swale was proposed, whether or not it would infiltrate or if it would be kind of just a ponded area on the site. So I'll pull up the plan, and we have the engineer and I believe the property owner present to go over some of the responses they have.
Okay. And so, Mr. Preddy, is that you?
That's me, Mr. Preddy. Jim Preddy, Criscolo Engineering, 420 East Main Street in Branford. So at the last meeting, Jeremy from my office presented Lot 7 and 14, and Lot 7 was continued because of what Jamie just said, because of the stormwater management item. Yesterday, in fact, I'd gone out and witnessed test pit in the area of where we proposed basin and a perk on lot 7, 8, and 9. We actually staked out the locations, so they dug them right in the areas we had proposed on the plans. The test pits were about 4 feet deep. I was able to walk down in there. Did show signs of modeling. There was no water in any of the holes, but it's been very dry. Recently, there was signs of modeling in each case, which would indicate that there's, at times, at least, groundwater or some saturation going on, but that it must come up and sit and then for a certain amount of time and then go away. But the perks, they did perk very slowly, but they did perk. What was interesting is that when I scraped the shovel up the side of the excavation, what was left in the shovel was actually very nice sandy material. It's just very compact. So it's not like it's silty clay material that doesn't allow any water to flow. Obviously, the water must flow if the modeling is occurring and the water is coming up and down. But it is very compact. So in lieu of what we had indicated on the plan originally, we decided that to change to a rain garden would make more sense, because we'll be excavating out some material and putting it back a little bit differently, and it would give the water a place to go and a time extension basically to get in the ground. And the soil interface between our detention area and the actual soil interface would be actually a little bit larger than what it was. You know, the actual square footage of interface would be much larger than what was proposed as a grass swale. So interestingly, you know, if you use 40% for the stone and the sand mix here and a little bit of a 9-inch depression at the top, you actually get more storage per linear foot. So these would be, instead of 24 feet long, they'd be 20 feet long. So they'd be a little bit shorter, but you have a little bit more storage, a little bit more opportunity for infiltration. And speaking with the developer, it made sense to have the homeowner actually help in the choosing of the plants, because then they'd have some interested investment in, the way it looks, and they're more likely to take care of it. So that's where we are for lot 7 and 8 and 9, and I'm going to do a couple of more perks randomly, lot over near lot 14 and 15, and then probably over in the corner closer to the intersection of Parish Farm. And if I find the same thing everywhere, we'll do this on all the lots, basically.
Awesome. That's great.
Commissioner Grenolch, I think that's a good improvement and kind of solves the problem that was brought up.
This is Commissioner Boda. So if the homeowner is participating in the choosing of plants, have they been advised to or given the set of invasive plants that are off the list?
Not yet. This just occurred yesterday, between yesterday and today. So any of not any of, most Connecticut native plants can endure some wet periods and dry periods, just because of the zone that we're in here, and for them to survive, they've kind of grown that way. So as long as they don't pick any items that grow into large trees, it won't affect the functionality of this. And whether they pick items that are more flowering or look better in the wintertime really doesn't affect their absorption capabilities.
This is Commissioner Boda. I think my concern would be that burning bush is very beautiful, and we would not want
But it's invasive.
That's my point. So to make
Right.
sure that they see that any of the plants that are on the invasive plant list in Connecticut are not items from which they can choose. I don't mind a mixture of native and ornamentals for a feature like this. Definitely natives are better, but so long as there are not invasives included in any of the possibilities.
Jim Preddy again, agreed, and that's fine. And in fact, when Jamie and I were on the phone earlier today, I was looking on the UConn website, and they actually have a list of appropriate, and so we'll include that in the in the communication with the homeowners.
And so this is Commissioner Boda. Would you, Jamie, be able to just bring the full site plan back up and point out for the commissioners who are here this evening where that would be located on lot 7?
Jamie,
if you could point out where it would.
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. The area we're talking about is right here. This is where the grass swale was proposed. The plan has not been updated to reflect the rain garden, and the specific sizing of the rain garden has not been provided. And in regards to the species, if the commission thought it appropriate, the condition could either specify that no invasive species shall be used, or that the planting shall be reviewed and approved by the Inland Wetland Agent prior to installation.
Jim Preddy again, if it's acceptable, I'll change the detail to mention no invasive species allowed, and I'll stick the detail right on the lot plan, so it'll become part of the record, I guess.
Commissioner Grenolch, I think that Jim has mentioned that he was thinking of using this same approach on some of the other applications for houses in that area, which are a part of that we agreed would be administrative approval by Jamie. And I'm wondering if, under the circumstances, if we made this also added to her list of the other houses up in that area for administrative approval, that would kind of and then she can take care of making sure these things are done. And I would agree that Jim should correct the plan and get, the right information on there.
This is Commissioner Boda. Jamie, is that if we were to just stipulate about the addition of this feature onto the other lots, well, we would only be talking about this lot right now, but that we would also need the details for the rain garden plan, as well as the planting list and the no invasive planting statement to be included. Is that sufficient for you if we were to move to agent approval, or is there another?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I think it can be handled that way if the commission would prefer, or the commission can make a motion to approve with a condition that be submitted. Or if the commission is more comfortable with waiting until that's been submitted, I can then process it administratively. And on a side note, just so that the commission is aware, on the lots I have approved administratively for this development, I did add a condition of approval that essentially states, perk test shall be completed and results submitted to the Inland Wetland Office to ensure proposed stormwater management will infiltrate. If proposed grass swale will not infiltrate, a revised stormwater management proposal shall be submitted for review prior to implementation. If the swale does not infiltrate after install, modified plan may be considered and approved as a modification of this permit if the permit is still valid. So basically, I provided a provision that easily allows for them to make the substitution with lots that have already received approval.
Okay. This is Commissioner Boda. I don't want to approve it until we have the details on that rain garden. So I would say that an agent approval would be more timely and appropriate in this case.
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. Just to clarify, so adding the note that no invasives shall be used to. Can you see the detail that I have pulled up on my screen?
Yeah. I can't see the language underneath long-term maintenance. That little bar is on top of it. There you go. That's fine.
Jim Preddy again, the note regarding the plantings was at the top of the detail. We can amend it to mention no invasives will be allowed. And then as a separate paragraph, we could, I don't know, it's probably too many to list entirely, but we could actually, I guess.
You could just do an addendum to see the
Yukon list.
Yeah, you can include the Yukon list, and on this here, put a note that says to refer to the Yukon invasive network list. I don't remember the name.
And you could also, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, you could also refer to that Connecticut rain garden tool for suggested plantings to use. Just a thought.
Okay, so this will go for agent approval. Commissioner Sullivan, Begemon, Gornalsh, Kraus, thoughts?
Commissioner Granolch, I agree. Administrative approval.
Commissioner Begemon, agree for agent approval.
Commissioner Sullivan, I agree for agent approval.
Commissioner Kraus, I agree for agent approval.
Awesome. Okay. So this is Commissioner Bodo. Jamie, you're set. We can move on.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, yes.
Okay, so inland wetland 20.08.06 41 Branford Road. This is pending agent review per discussion at September 10th.
Yep. Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. The next three applications the commission reviewed at the September 10th meeting and okayed for administrative approval pending submission of additional information. And I am or was still waiting on information. So they have not been approved yet. So I have them on here because they're still pending. But unless the commission has any questions, I don't think we need to dive into them.
No. And do any commissioners have any questions? Okay. So we will move on to enforcement if Mr. Peretti is still here. Thank you. So enforcement 76 through 80 Pent Road. And so there are two items to be discussed jointly. We have cease and correct 19.09.01, 76 to 80 Pent Road, clearing along a watercourse and wetland, as well as the NOV 76 to 80 Pent Road, clearing of vegetation and establishment of lawn beyond the permitted area. Jamie, can you set the context for us, please?
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. The commission reviewed a planting plan, I believe at the June regularly scheduled meeting that was proposed by the property owner to satisfy the requirements of the cease and correct order. That planting plan also requested a modification in the area to be maintained as lawn. The commission tentatively approved what was submitted in a sense to get the property owner started so she could get planting before the drier season, hotter season. So the very next day I got a call while I was not in the office that she was getting her plants and planted all of the plantings that are on our plan. I would say, I think there's a couple of places where the order of the plants might have changed a little bit, but the number of plants is representative of what was proposed. I will note that the red bark and the hydrangea and Joe Pye weed are all transplants. The shrubs were perhaps on the smaller side than what I would have liked to see, but the property owner had already taken the initiative of getting the plants and getting the plantings in, which is good. I have pictures of the last time I went out, which was in September. The reason why this is on the agenda is because the commission requested an update in October of this year and in June of next year. So this is just to inform the commission that the plantings have gone in and provide an update of what the condition of the plantings are. And I believe I saw that the property owner is on the call, so she can add any comments that the commissioners might have. I did recommend to the property owner, given the size of the plantings, that she flag them. So all of the plantings have been flagged, and I know she was watering them at the beginning of the season. They're all generally doing pretty good. I think there might have been one that was possibly going to need to be replaced in the spring. And for the most part, the disturbed areas have, you can see from this picture here, it's not 100% revegetated, but the site is relatively stable and has come back fairly well. So what you're looking at in this picture is the silt fence on the far side of the intermittent watercourse. I did not direct the property owner to remove it yet. However, I don't think it's really providing any erosion control at this time. However, it might help with identifying where the plants are in the spring. This is a tree that came down in one of the recent storms. It's at the northern end of the water course, and they cut it back just a bit to I think prevent it from blocking flows. They plan to leave the rest of the tree as is. I believe that this flag here is marking the location of a Joe Pye weed transplant, which is kind of hard to see in the picture. Again, the silt fences along the intermittent water course. And there's another planting there with the pink flag. You can see the vegetation has come back into the area. And I believe this rock wall is up by the road, if I remember correctly. There is an area under one of the trees that is not fully vegetated, but the property owner indicated to me that she didn't think it was before, and it does look like it is a shaded area that that very well could have had that type of environment previously. There are some vines growing in the area of concern, which the property owner does intend to manage to help prevent any impact to the shrubs that have been planted. Picture's not a very good one. Some more plantings, so you can see the shrubs are on the smaller side, but there are a number of them, and they are well spaced along the area that was disturbed. This is the area I was talking about that has remained kind of bare.
Mhm. The pictures are helpful. Thank you, Jamie.
Yep.
This is Commissioner Broda.
And these pictures were taken a couple of weeks ago. Looks like September 16th.
Okay.
It's one of the dogwood transplants. And then that's kind of looking towards the lawn portion, and then down over in here is the septic reserve area.
Mhm. Okay.
So, does the commission have any questions? It does look like the owner is present, so you can either ask myself or the owner. Concerns, requests?
Does the commission have any other? Nope. It seems like we are in good shape.
All right. So the next step, Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, would be to follow up with the property owner in June to check and make sure everything survived and give another update to the commission.
Okay. Good. All right, so we will move on to other business. Permit modification request, inland wetland 19.10.01, 21 Summit Place. Multi-story building with community center and parking. You want to set the stage for us, Jamie?
Jamie Frederick, inland wetland agent. This was approved, I want to say in December of 2019. There was a public hearing held based off of a petition that was received. There's been some minor modifications, mostly to building layout, utilities, the patio for the clubhouse, and then I thought most significantly, there was a landscape modification in regards to the landscaping between the two retaining walls above the stormwater basin. The stormwater, all activity is actually outside of the 100-foot upland review area. However, the stormwater discharges just at the top of the 100-foot review area at the top of a steep slope. So I will try and pull up the plan. And I believe.
What is the modification? This is Commissioner Boda. What is the modification that's being requested?
So essentially there, between the retaining wall, originally there was proposed to be some shrubs and it would be seeded with like a lawn seed mix. They have put riprap in that area presently. So they're requesting to move the plantings that were proposed for that area above the upper retaining wall, with the other plantings that were proposed in that area, and to keep the riprap where it has been installed. And then the minor building modifications I had already reviewed at a staff level and determined didn't need to come to the commission because they were so minor. Do we have anyone from Malone and McBroom or the applicant present? Yes. If either of you want to start presenting while I pull up the plan.
Yeah, sure. It's Steve Ditsko, professional engineer at Malone and McBroom with offices in Cheshire and New Haven. And as Jamie said, the requested modification is the area between the walls. It's about 7 to 8 foot width between the walls, about 1,300 square feet that had a few shrubs on there and grass proposed. And the developer has installed riprap there. The riprap will be lower maintenance. In hindsight, I'm not sure the plants were really bound to thrive there anyway, with the grid and the being arid between the wall. We did check the hydrology model for the change in cover, and even though the water will end up right in the detention basin right below it, that change of 1,300 square feet from the planted area to the riprap did not have an impact on the hydrology. So no increases in peak rates of runoff or anything as a consequence of that. The shrubs will be relocated onto the slope. One good thing, if any of you have been out there, is that the developer was encouraged to develop this east side of the site first and get it stabilized and planted as we headed into winter. He's done just that. And pretty much everything that you see to the right side of the plan is, as of today, has a nice stand of grass beginning to grow on it beneath the erosion control mat. So that's great timing. The other changes are quite minor changes to the building footprints and
I
the
just want to
patio.
stop you for a second.
Yep.
This is Commissioner Boda. Am I looking, Jamie, the map that you've pulled up, is this what was originally, is this the approved site plan?
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. Right now we are looking at the modified proposed site plan. So the difference is between these two retaining walls, the riprap is proposed. I will switch real quick to the approved site plan. You can see in between the two retaining walls that there were shrubs proposed. So they're essentially looking to relocate these above the retaining wall with some additional plantings that they had proposed from a planning and zoning standpoint. So that's the main thing I think that we're focusing on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, again, Steve Ditsko, that's correct. Just that little area between the walls, 8 foot width. Change in planting from the vegetation and grass to the riprap.
And Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent, there were some minor modifications to the layout of the patio and the clubhouse and to the multi-unit building as well. The patio is obviously the closest to the wetland, this being the 100-foot upland review area right here. So I'll toggle back to the proposed plan. You can see there's this kind of horseshoe shape, it looks like. And the shape of the clubhouse has changed slightly.
Commissioner Grenwalch, I would think that using the riprapping between the retaining walls makes more sense than plants that are going to be pretty hard to do any maintenance of, to get in there and work on, and that they probably serve a better purpose and are more visible where they're now being suggested.
This is Commissioner Boda. Are those plants? I'm looking at the list that's below. Are these all shrubs, or are there any trees? Some of those circles kind of give the impression that they are more tree-like than shrub-like. I can't.
Jamie Frederick, in the wetland agent. I believe there were some trees added during the planning and zoning process. So there are some trees proposed above the retaining wall.
And what are those?
Looks like there's.
Is that PS? What is that?
PS is white pine, and then Norway spruce and eastern red cedar.
Okay.
Jamie Frederick, and the wetland agent. Also, just to remind the commission, there was a condition of approval that the plantings in the area of the basin be monitored for 5 years and that a bond be submitted to ensure their completion. So they're still proposing the same number and same species of plantings. They're just proposing to relocate the ones that were between the two retaining walls.
So these are so those bigger trees are conifers. Is there a reason? And I honestly, I would discourage you from using the white pine simply because they drop their bottom branches like crazy, and they end up being quite a nuisance. So is there a reason why there's no deciduous mass producing trees here?
Jamie Frederick, and the wetland agent, not to speak for the applicant, but those were not on the plan that was reviewed by Inland Wetlands. They were added during the planning and zoning phase, so it might have been a screening requirement from planning and zoning. That's just a guess, though. And I don't know why those species were selected specifically.
Yeah, again, Steve Ditsko from Malona McBroom. I'll chime in. Those were requested by planning and zoning. That's a buffer planting. The plantings between the walls that you asked about were a viburnum, and there was one other shrub type species there, but certainly no tree species were proposed within the walls prior.
So is there still viburnum? Yes, it's there.
Yep.
Jamie Frederick, and the wetland agent. So what we're looking at right now are the original plantings that were approved by the commission, which included the summer sweet, gray dogwood, spice bush, and viburnum. And then the planting plan got expanded when it went to zoning. Are
these original shrubs still included in the current planting plan?
Jamie Frederick, and the wetland agent. Yes, they are. They're included right here.
Okay, and so everything that was in the original plan is there, and it's been augmented with conifers.
Correct.
Yes.
Are there other questions from the commission?
Commissioner Begeman, the question you mentioned, Mr. Ditsko, about the riprap not changing the amount of water that gets absorbed versus plantings between the two walls, retaining walls. Can you explain that?
Yeah, again, Steve Ditsko from Malona McBroom. So yes, there is a difference in the imperviousness of the riprap versus the plantings, but the area between the walls was not highly porous to begin with. But we did, in fact, put the computation into the hydrology model to see if there was any reaction from that change of 1,300 square feet. and there was no change. You know, you're talking about kind of balancing it into the entire watershed, of which 1,300 square feet was a small part, so it didn't react to that.
Thank you.
Other commissioners, Granosh, Kraus, Sullivan?
Commissioner Granold, I'm fine with the modification.
All right, is this, Jamie, is this a votable or consensus?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, I believe a motion would be
Yeah.
called for.
Okay. Is there a commissioner that would like to make a motion to accept the permit modification?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, just for motion purposes, it looks like the plan set is dated 9/18, but let me confirm that.
Commissioner Granold, I'll make a motion that we approve the modification to the plantings as now described on plan dated September 18th, 2020. That we that's approved, that we approve that modification.
Thank you, Commissioner Granosh. Is there a second?
Commissioner Begemon, second.
So Commissioner Granosh made the motion. Commissioner Begeman seconded the motion. Abby, you have the motion down. Are you ready?
Abby York, Inland Wetland Associate. Yes, sorry, I was typing. All set. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Boda. I will take a roll call vote. Is there discussion on the motion? I will take a roll call vote. Commissioner Kraus?
Yes.
Commissioner Granosh?
Is that me, Commissioner Granold? Aye.
Yes. Commissioner Begeman?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
And myself, Commissioner Boda, aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, other business, 7D, permit extension request, inland wetland 08.06.02, 26 Cherry Hill Road. 8-unit multi-unit housing and 1 single family lot. Jamie, you want to fill us in?
Jamie Frederick, inland wetland agent. So this permit was issued in 2008. For a variety of reasons, it has not started yet. We received a letter yesterday, I believe, requesting a permit extension of 3 years, to which I responded the request would be considered at the meeting on October 8th, but that the permit could not be extended for past 14 years from issuance. So that would be October 9th, 2022, due to limitations of the statutes, which they acknowledge. So if you want, I can read through the letter. There has been no change to plans since the commission last reviewed a plan change in March of 2017. So they're simply requesting an extension of the permit. The commission, when considering a request for extension, shall consider whether or not there's been any enforcement actions or significant change in circumstances. There have not been any enforcement actions to date, and I'm not aware of any changes in circumstances. As I stated, their last revision date identified as March 2017, and that was what the commission has last approved. Any questions?
If there are no questions, is there a motion to grant the permit extension request.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, just as a reminder, October 9th, 2022 is the maximum extension date.
I'll make a motion. Can you move that down on the screen so I can identify it?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, it's not,
There, that's
that's not the date though, just to be clear.
No, you see,
the permit number.
Yeah, the permit number.
Commissioner Granolch, I would make a motion to extend the permit IW 08.06.02 to 26 Cherry Hill Road from to October 7th, 2022.
Thank you, Commissioner Granolch. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Sullivan, I'll second that.
Discussion. I believe it was October 9th. Is that correct? So I would offer the amendment that the extension date be changed to October 9th, 2022. Commissioner Granolch, do you accept my friendly amendment?
Commissioner Granolch, I believe I said October 9th, but I may have been misunderstood. That October 9th, 2022.
Commissioner Sullivan, do you accept my friendly amendment?
I accept.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Abby, are you set with the motion? All right, I will take a roll call vote. Commissioner Kraus.
I'm going to abstain.
Commissioner Granolch.
Aye.
Commissioner Begeman.
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Aye.
And then Commissioner Boda, aye. Objections? Yeah. And there's one abstention. Motion carries. Okay, other business 7C, review 2021 meeting schedule and determine whether to increase regularly scheduled meetings to twice a month. So Jamie has made this pitch to us previously about the why, and I think the why has to do with notice of the meeting and that it's easier to cancel them than it is to set them. Does that capture it?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So I think the meat of it is that applications can only be received at regularly scheduled meetings. So by increasing the amount of meetings to twice a month, even if you don't hold the second meeting in a month, it would allow an application to be received. So then if you were to discuss it at the first meeting the following month, the commission could then act on that application if they felt they were ready to. There's pros and cons to both, so it's just.
Yeah. So this is Commissioner Boda. I think I personally, if we do not have to, do not want to do 2 meetings a month. I think we're already, it's a lot, and so I don't want to hold in a meeting just so that an application can be received, because that's really seems to be about expediting the process for the applicant. That's not a really strong why for me right now. I don't know about anybody else. I'm seeing a lot of other people shake their heads. So I think, I don't know. What does everybody else think?
Commissioner Granolch, I would rather stay with the 1 meeting a month. I don't need another meeting. However, if our workload gets heavy, I have no problem having a second meeting as a special meeting. but I think our schedule should stay as one meeting a month, as we have had for all the years I've been on the commission.
This is Commissioner Kraus, and I agree with that. And I'm not available on the fourth Thursday of each month.
This is Commissioner Begman. I agree. And I also think that if we scheduled meetings every 2 weeks, the public would think that we're meeting every 2 weeks. And then if we cancel them, that could cause some issues in the public's expectation of us meeting every 2 weeks. So I think it's best to have once a month, and if we need to, have a special meeting.
That's a good point, Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Sullivan, I concur.
Okay, so I think, Jamie, do we need to vote on the calendar? Or is that a general consensus?
Well, I'll make a motion that we have our commission meetings will be on the second Thursday of each month on the dates as set forth in what's on the screen here, which is just a enumeration of the actual dates each month. That is the second Thursday.
Is there?
I might recommend a withdrawal again. Someone wants to second it, and then maybe start.
Yeah, why don't we do the second, and then we can discuss. Is there a second to having the meeting this second Thursday of each month?
I'll second that, Commissioner Kraus.
Okay, discussion, Jamie.
So I had Abby put together a list of the dates, Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, and any date with an asterisk next to it's a holiday. I did have her do a general consideration of a wide variety of holidays, so not necessarily all of them are going to be ones the commission determines to be a conflict, but I believe November 11th in particular is Veterans Day, and Town Hall is closed, so we would not be able to meet on November 11th. So I'm going to scroll to the last page real quick where we can see what all of so the only one that is relevant that Town Hall is closed is November 11th, since you guys have determined not to meet on the fourth Thursday. So the question would be, would you want to meet on a different day in November, or would you want to take November off?
Don't do that.
Commissioner Reynolds, since I made the motion, I would suggest that we change that to, let's say, the first Thursday in November and do the holiday.
What is the? Oh, because I see the 4th is Thanksgiving.
But we have no conflict with Thanksgiving. So we're talking about, instead of November 11th, November 4th.
So that would be the first. Yeah. Okay. Any other glaring? I don't think so. Okay, so does that satisfy the concern?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. Yes, unless the commissioner has any concerns with any of the other holidays that have been identified on the list on the screen. Again, the Thanksgiving, November 25th and December 23rd would not apply. Just the ones with a single asterisk.
Pardon me, but that's
December.
the first time I've heard of many of these different holidays. So
there's a lot of them. One of them is Diwali. Okay, so if Commissioner Granolsh, if you would accept the friendly amendment changing November, or you want to make yourself a friendly amendment to change the November date to November 1st.
Oh, I'm sorry, November 4th.
Yes, sir. November 4th.
Yeah, my motion is that all of the ones that were on the, I've got the wrong list on the screen now. It just got the holidays, but can we go back, Jamie, to the screen where you had that's it. On the second Thursday of every month, with the exception of November 11th, would be changed to November 4th. That would be a clarification of my motion.
Okay. Commissioner Kraus, do you accept the friendly amendment?
I do.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? I will take a roll call vote. Commissioner Kraus,
Aye.
Commissioner Granolsh,
Aye.
Commissioner Begeman,
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
Commissioner Boda, aye. Any against? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, other business 7D, reminder of special meeting to continue discussion on regulation revisions. So, is that it? It's just a reminder that we are going to continue that discussion about the boilerplate conditions, deliberation guidance, and we're going to do that on the 22nd at 7 p.m. and the meeting will be remote.
Jamie, yeah. Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, that's correct. Although I've not had a lot of time to work on all of the modifications to the guidance documents, so it might be more focused on the regulation revisions, but I'm sure there's plenty to talk about.
Always. Okay. Agent approvals, 8A, Inland Wetland 20.08.08, 24 Lamatra Lane, Lot 5.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, I will address that all of these applications, A through F, were presented to the commission and reviewed by the commission and okayed for agent approval, and the approval has been issued. So unless there's any questions, I won't go into them further.
Nice. Look at that. That's a bunch all at once. All right, Commissioner Boda, so correspondence and announcements, 9A.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, every year the department receives usually a little booklet of the Registry of Soil Scientists that are registered with the Society of Soil Scientists of Southern New England. This year they decided not to print out copies, but they gave us a nice little flyer that identifies who they are and a little QR code so that people that stop by can visit their website. We also do maintain, kind of on a side note, a list of soil scientists that have worked in Branford specifically for reference for members of the community.
9B, Executive Order 7B, extended to November 9th for Executive Order 9A. So I'm assuming that's about us being able to do this via Zoom.
That's correct, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So Executive Order 7B allows for remote meetings. It is my understanding that to date, it's been extended to November 9th, 2020. So if it's not extended again, then it's possible that the November meeting would be in person. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets extended, but I haven't heard anything. So we'll keep the commission updated ahead of any transition back to in-person meetings and any precautions that, will be taken.
Excellent. Okay. That is the end of the list. There was nothing else that was added, correct? We would have done that at the beginning of the meeting.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, I'll just add that we do have a new inland wetland associate. Her name is Abigail York. She's been taking minutes, and I just want to give her a welcome. And
Abby, this is Commissioner Boda. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, this is Abby York, Inland Wetland Associate. So I went to the University of Connecticut. I graduated in 2019. Since then, I've worked at Lavender Pond Farm and most recently for DEEP in the Water Permitting and Enforcement Division as a seasonal employee. Other than that, I'm just excited to be working with you all and look forward to it.
Welcome, Abby. We're glad to have you.
Commissioner Reynolds, welcome aboard, and looking forward to meeting you in person.
I can say the same.
Commissioner Kraus, I second what Commissioner Grunwald said.
Wonderful.
Commissioner Begemon, welcome, Abby.
Commissioner Sullivan, welcome, Abby, and good luck.
Thanks, everyone. This is Abby, Inland Wetland Associate.
All right. So that being said, what a happy note to wrap up on. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion. Commissioner Reynolds, motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Begemon, second.
We have Grinolf made the motion. Commissioner Begemon seconded the motion. Can we do this by consensus?
Just everybody
all in
yell out.
favor? All right. So, Begemon.
Aye.
Grinolf.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Kraus.
Aye.
Boda. Aye. So the motion carries. We are adjourned.
Good night,
Thanks for
everybody.
chairing.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.